Welcome to Knowledgeable Aging. I'm your host, Jason Kotar. Join us today to talk about creative engagement and home care is Patricia Dubroof. Patricia is the Director of Community Relations for Assisting Hands Home Care. Patricia joined Assisting Hands in March of 2019. She has over 35 years of experience in caring for seniors through creativity and coaching. She creates partnerships with our senior communities to share educational and creative tools about the important role caregivers have in our families' lives. She connects with our families as they enter the caregiver world, listening carefully to their stories and finding solutions to their caregiving needs. How are you doing today, Patricia?
I'm doing fantastic, and it's an honor and pleasure to be here with you, Jason. I've
Thank you so much.
seen so many of your programs, very broad range, interesting guests. Love the way you do this.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. So I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. You and I have had the opportunity to talk a couple of times. So the title of the webinar today, I want to start with what is creative engagement?
Okay, so this is a really relatively new field, advanced by the aging community, actually, because what was discovered many, many years ago by Dr. Jean Cohen is that making art improves your well-being, and setting an intention, welcoming gratitude, all of those pieces are creative engagement. So anytime you look at art, you listen to music, you read poetry, you make art, you go see a dance performance, you dance yourself, you do yoga, those are roles of creative engagement. And when you intentionalize them, then it becomes a healing modality. And this became super popular in nursing homes, assisted living, and independent living communities, and has sort of branched out from there.
So you've been in the field for over 35 years. Why the creative engagement, or why this industry spoke to you?
So at the time, I had two little girls, and they were in public school, and I wanted to work in their time frame. So I was looking at communities that needed art engagement, and lo and behold, it was the senior community that popped up, and I was able to get a Family Foundation grant for my first program. And we started what became a best practice in the country, an artist in residence program that allowed residents to participate in multiple art programs during a week instead of just like one art class a month. And that produced such a great effect on these residents. So we were seeing outcomes of improved blood pressure, lowering blood pressure. We were seeing social engagement. We were seeing behavior changes. We actually, when I worked at the VA, we put a program together called Shifting Moods. And at the change of shift for the nurses, for the caregiver staff, we actually had live music. And I got to tell you, when people came into the space and heard that music, and it was jazz, they would dance into their job. And the people who were leaving, who now had to hand over their client information to the other group, were dancing because they were happy to be leaving and they could get out of there. So it was just little pieces like that, huge effects. So both on the resident population and on the caregiver. I look at the institutions as whole worlds, not just we only serve the clients. We have to serve those caregivers as well. They're working way too hard for way too low money.
Absolutely. Are there some tips that you have to use creativity as a healing modality?
Yes, so I have a program that I offer that actually offers 5 different ways to use creative engagement because people are different thinkers. Neurodiversity is a big word now, and I think it speaks to all of us who are more visual, maybe who are auditory learners, maybe we learn by touch. So the idea with the 5 tips is to kind of try to reach each of those groups. So first we work on an expectation of the day, then we add to that a little brain gym, which is a kinesthetic workout to actually help your left and right brain engage more evenly, because a lot of us are very left-brained, the logical thinking part. And then we go in and we create a gift note card for someone in their world. Maybe it's a birthday card, maybe it's an Easter card, whatever timing we're at, or maybe it's a note card to themselves, a self-love note, which is also super important. And after we create this, then we work on what kind of music would appeal to this image that we've created. And maybe we come up with a couple of songs. Maybe at the time we try to sing them. You know, now with the internet, I can get YouTube to sing it for me. It's great because you don't want to hear me sing necessarily. And then we also might work on what words to put inside the note. And we'll create a haiku, which is a short poem form, pretty easy to learn. And it helps people, again, just get a little more active in their right brain. They're using their creative side, not so much their logistical side, and it gives them ease. It literally changes their mood. And then, of course, all of this gives them self-care. So whether I'm working with clients who are, experiencing life with dementia, or maybe they've survived a stroke, or maybe they are experiencing the results of Parkinson's or MS, if I can get them engaged for this, 35 minutes to an hour, then it's ease that carries on, and sort of like a pebble in a pond, it has that ripple effect and spans out. It's beautiful to watch the change. I always do like a before, how are you feeling? And then an after, how are you feeling? I've rarely seen it fail.
And talk about duration. So you said 35 minutes, or 30 minutes to 45 minutes. How often are you engaging with these individuals?
So that kind of depends. I mean, usually at this point, I'm not doing one-to-one care for our clients. We have 400 certified nursing aides who do that.
Right.
But what I brought to home care, and this is an interesting thing that I don't think any other home care company is doing because they don't have a me yet. I haven't cloned yet, is we're asking our caregivers as part of their onboarding to fill out a creativity survey. And the survey has lots of different ways you can use creativity as a healing modality. And we want to identify, we want to honor, and we want to engage the caregiver to use their natural abilities in their work. It makes them feel better, it empowers them, and it gives us something special to offer our clients. On the other side, we have our clients filling out this very similar survey saying, what does mom like to do? Is there a particular genre of music? Is there a particular movement practice? Did she used to waltz with her husband? Her husband's long dead. Well, the caregiver can learn to waltz. I mean, it doesn't take much. And if we can use that as part of our metrics to match the caregiver with the client, and we can find some commonality there, poof, we've got magic. And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Can creative engagement be tailored to both group and individual dynamics?
Absolutely. And in my practice now, I do this in big groups. I had 53 people at my last program in Leisure World, and I was shocked. I only had cookies for 50, but it was really sweet. And that is a different experience, obviously. Oh my goodness, that was crashing thunder lightning. So experiencing creative engagement in a group works really well. It's also wonderful to work one-to-one or 1-to-5 even. So if you have a caregiver in a community, a CCRC or assisted living or independent living, and you want to provide creative engagement to a small group who are at a similar level of dementia, say, it really helps to have that connection with them where you can learn something different about these clients as well. So from the caregiver's perspective, by reaching in and looking at places where they find ease and joy from creative engagement, it becomes another way to assess their ability and who they really were before dementia settled in. So many times as caregivers, we meet a client who's already advanced in their disease. And it's very challenging to know where they came from. Even if you read their chart, it doesn't really share their
It doesn't
soulful
encapsulate, right?
things. Did this, I mean, I remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg used to love opera, but not everybody knew that about her. I mean, we know her as a superior Supreme Court justice, but she had a love of opera, she had a love of theater, and that would be a connection that we would want to make with a person who is now in decline, who may have loved opera at some point.
If somebody's watching this and they take care of a loved one at home, can you talk about the difference between what an activity is versus engagement?
That is a brilliant question, Jason, because I think it's not the action that's different, it's the intention that's different.
Yeah.
So you can garden and grow peas, and what you're looking for is the outcome of how many peas you get out of the garden. Or you can garden because being in the sunshine and moving dirt with your hands and smelling the aromas of a garden and watering your plants and watching each seedling come up out of the earth is engaging. And that's really the difference. It's not the outcome that we're looking for, it's the process as we go along. So the intention is to bring joy, not harvest peas.
Right.
If the peas fail, who cares? We'll go buy peas in the frozen food section. It's okay.
Yeah.
However, the process of making that each step happen engages us so fully that we lose track of time. And it's very similar to what the experts say about meditation. And we all know now that meditation is so, so good for us, focusing on our breath and where it comes from and how it comes in and out of our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar to that when you drop down into what I call the beta energy. So we get out of our alpha energy, our everyday, we have to do this, this, and this, and we drop down into that beta energy that takes us away from the world. And honestly, for some people, they come out of the practice and they go, wow, 2 hours have gone by? What happened? And it's not because of memory loss, it's because they were so engaged that they lost track of time. They lost track of the pain they were in. They lost track of that energy of anxiousness. We see a lot of that, especially in nursing home communities. Residents are a little anxious. They don't live in their own homes anymore. They're in crazy environments. It's unsettling. So you come into this sacred space, we create this beautiful art space, and they can just find ease. It's awesome.
Can any activity be a means for engagement?
I would say yes. I think that when we set an intention, whether it's playing golf or cooking, it's different if you're cooking quick, I got to get this out and feed my kids. And, I'm going to take time. I'm going to read this recipe. I'm going to smell my herbs as they go in. I'm going to pick them fresh from the garden. Different process, different outcome. Whether it's more nutritious or not, I can't get into, but I think the love in it, you definitely would feel. So I think there's an element in this, and I know we've seen this in the home care industry, where the caregiver feels less exhausted at the end of a shift because she's able to restore during this creativity process. So say, for instance, I had a client who said to me, my mother loves to sing hymns. If you can find a caregiver who loves to sing hymns, she will be over the moon. Okay, so besides all the other criteria she needed to meet, this caregiver happened to sing hymns. Did they sing from the same church and the same books? Don't know, but I got to tell you, they hit it off. They appreciated each other's music. They connected over that, and both of them had a sense of renewal at the end of the 8 hours or whatever, however many hours our caregiver was there, rather than a feeling of, oh, I've given everything. Instead, she got something back too. And it's just it's that connection that seems to make the work that much more helpful.
Yeah. I remember early on when we started Knowledgeable Aging, I was talking to somebody and they talked about the idea of engagement, and they said that the idea is not to focus on the task, but the individual. And listening to you talk about it, right? It's not the mean to the end, but it's the journey.
Right. And I found in working in groups, we'd often have somebody who would not want to participate. Oh, I can't draw, I can't write, I can't do any of those things. Well, part of it is because nobody has offered a pen or pencil to this person in months. We
Hmm.
find that happens because once they're in the nursing home, they don't sign anything anymore. Who writes a check? Very few people. So they're not actually writing. They're actually not using that skill. And it's such an intrinsic part of us. One of our most natural ways of making art is to sign our name. That's why handwriting experts get paid so much money,
Yeah.
because each one is so individual. So just getting folks to write their name, that's one of my warm-ups, is awesome. And they look at that and they go, wow, I never looked at it as design. I only looked at it as a means to get my check cashed at the bank.
It's personal.
So it's very exciting when you can work with somebody who's had that um, ability sort of taken away for a little bit and bringing it back in a different way. We had an artist, I did an artist in residence program where I brought in artists over 65 to have retrospective exhibitions of their work. So there'd be like 50 to 100 pieces in these shows. It was fantastic. And one of the artists had come to us she was a sculptor from Mexico. She had originally was born in Philadelphia, fell in love, moved to Mexico with her Mexican husband. They built a fabulous life. He was an engineer and they traveled the world. They had a great life. And all the time she studied sculpture and made these beautiful bronze sculptures. But when she came to this country again, she was a frail little old lady who was suffering from MS. And so I engaged with her and she agreed to have this exhibition. And she came to the opening in her wheelchair in full Mexican regalia. I mean, she looked amazing. And she said, with tears in her eyes, I came to this country as a little old lady and I had lost my artist self. And you have restored that with this exhibition.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the goosebumps rise every time I say that
Yeah.
story. But that's what creativity can do. And even if you're not a professional artist, I'm not trying to launch brand new careers in the arts. We could do that. We could set that intention and say, okay, these 5 people are going to go forth and try to become artists. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about making art as a way of feeling better, as a way of accomplishing something, bringing that self-esteem back, building your personal ego so that you can feel like you are an honored person again. Our culture isn't very good at honoring elders.
Yeah, that's for
We
sure.
don't have that natural, the American way is not really right there. I heard a heartwarming story today about a man who turned 100 years old, and through the grapevine and through a magazine story, I should say, he was featured that his 100th birthday was coming up and he would love to receive cards. Well, you can imagine, he received 400 cards.
Wow.
That's not usual.
No.
And I don't understand why it isn't. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That's a touching story. Wow. I want to circle back on the creativity within the client or group. How do you know what's specific or what is most effective for that, say, group and or individual, especially as time goes by?
so typically part of my warm up is actually a secret assessment.
Okay.
So I've been in this field long enough to be able to determine without the medical side of it where this person might be in their cognitive challenges and if they have cognitive challenges. Some people present really well when they sit at the table, but as soon as you have them try to, connect 2 dots, they're it's impossible. So
Mhm.
there are techniques like that. In terms of individuals and laying out like a dosage of creativity, and I have to say, one of the fun things we did at the VA also is we created prescription pads that were for creative engagement, and it had checkoffs, and the veterans could check off what kind of creative engagement they wanted and how often. Or they might have it recommended by a social worker or a nurse or a family member. But everybody used them, and then they put them in a box, and then the volunteers took them out and said, oh, this guy wants something read to him. Okay, great, we're off. This person wants to make a note card for a friend. This person wants to do a collage, whatever. It was just such a delightful way to engage everybody in how to use this. So if we can determine what works best for this person, because it's all person-centered,
Yep.
then that could be trial and error. It could be something that they come up with. It could be something that a social worker finds out and tells me, or tells the creative engagement specialist. And when you're working with a group, you want to meet everybody where they are. So again, like I said, in that other group scenario, we had folks who hadn't had pencils in their hand in a long time. We also had people who, because they refused to do the activity, I asked them to please be a witness. And witnessing the activity actually gives benefit as well. And within a few minutes, somebody who's sitting next to somebody drawing says, hey, Mabel, how about if you use red next time? Or I don't know about what that thing is you're drawing there, but it's pretty, or whatever. Sometimes I would suggest that they do a collaborative. And if I had enough volunteers with me, I'd assign a volunteer to sit with them and start drawing it, but let them pick the colors, let them pick the subject matter, and it becomes a collaboration. And that was always very rewarding.
Absolutely. Does engagement have to be physical or mental to be a success? Can there be other outcomes when it comes to engagement with an individual? In other words, is it like taking my father for a walk and doing, and maybe he wants to do taekwondo, or he wants to do something like that? Is it just about the physical nature, or are we trying to tap into, the spiritual aspect of it too?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think yoga and Tai Chi and Taekwondo, any activity where you're connecting breath with movement, is definitely sits into that creativity side. I think that the engagement factor, I mean, some people love numbers,
Hmm.
and maybe their thing is, volunteering for a charity as a treasurer. But because they're not usually you don't get paid for volunteers like that. So you're not getting paid, you're doing what you love to do, and you're helping this organization move forward because now they have a reliable treasurer. That to me is very creative engagement. And I don't mean cooking the books creative. I mean, straight up good creative engagement.
That was great. Oh, well, you just lost my train of thought on that one. I had a good question right on the tip of my tongue, but you cooked the books. That's good. Very good. Um, if I have a family member that I've just started to take care of in some way, shape, or form, is there a wrong way to get started with creative engagement?
I would say the number one rule is it's there is no argument that you'll win when you're working with someone else, especially with cognitive challenges. So it's better to approach creative engagement from the side of what a lot of people are reluctant to start making an art piece, say, or maybe they're reluctant to write a poem. But if you put it on yourself first and show by modeling, that usually helps ease it in. I've had to do that numerous times, where you feel like, it's like asking somebody to dance and they're very shy about it. But if you model how comfortable you are in that and show that control of action, then they usually are like, oh, okay, then I'm safe here, I can move forward. And it's the same with making a painting or a drawing. And, you know, a lot of people take offense if everybody doesn't like their piece. So I try to go around the room at the end and say, one thing you like about this person's piece.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear what you don't like, but you tell me. And usually somebody can come up with something nice, like I like that color, or I like that, you know, I like the shape you made, something. But I think for connecting it back to say, we know this may be challenging for you, but let's give it a try. I'm willing to give it a try. I'll start. If you want to jump in, you know, the water's fine, or the jump rope won't tangle your legs, or whatever, you know, whatever you're working with. Because, you know, for some people, anything new is going to be scary. And one of the tools that Gene Cohen devised is called Making Memories Together game. And we've had the honor and privilege of distributing these games for the past couple of years. He's since passed and his widow contacted us. And this game is about using old photographs and the story that goes along with the photograph to do a simple board game. So they become the playing cards, these photos and stories. And just making the cards is a huge creative engagement. So looking at old photographs with somebody who has cognitive challenges is a huge success, because those are typically memories that they still can get to.
Tap into. Yeah.
Right. But if they say this is Aunt Joe and you know it's Aunt Jane, not worth arguing. You can say, oh, okay, didn't know that. Move on. You know, it's not about our understanding of creativity, it's theirs.
Yeah.
And you have to let them own that.
Yeah. How has COVID changed the creative engagement, whether it's in a professional setting and or personal setting?
That's a great one. Well, guess what? Zoom. Hello. It's been great. I have taught more 5 tips classes over Zoom than I can count on my fingers and toes. And I wouldn't have done that before. And a good friend of mine has been teaching on Zoom for a long time, longer than COVID. And she showed me how to use like a second camera so that I could show the artwork at the same time that I'm talking about it. So we've all become, you know, stage managers and costume designers and makeup artists and all that. Zoom has been very friendly for that. I think it's difficult for folks with dementia and Alzheimer's, it's difficult to have the masks on for themselves. They don't understand, they don't remember why. And for the caregivers, it cuts a lot of the communication because they can't see the full face. So even if they're not understanding the words that are coming out of a caregiver's mouth, they may understand the look on their face. And so that's been challenging. And of course, we've had the clear plastic shields, and you know, we've done lots of different things, the clear plastic masks. But for folks who are, you know, have other issues besides the cognitive issue, you know, more physical impairments, the masking up and the has not been an issue. The isolation has been an issue.
Yeah. So
I was doing supporting through creative engagement a stroke support group in Montgomery County. And we met every month in a clubhouse, you know, we all talked in person and all that. When we went to Zoom, not only did we have more people, but they were able to hear better each individual, because like you and I, we're just faces on a screen. You can read our lips really well. We can do closed captioning underneath if we choose. I mean, the technology is just so much better if they can get online. So we spent a lot of time teaching how to get on Zoom or go to webinar or whatever your favorite online screening system is. So that was a big change too. Who knew I was going to, you know, have to be a technology wizard for this?
Very good. Well, this has been wonderful. So, Patricia, how can people find you?
So my name again is Patricia Dubroof. I am the Director of Community Relations at Assisting Hands Home Care. of Potomac and Reston. We serve all of Montgomery County and Fairfax County. We are at assistinghands.com/Potomac is our website. And my email address, pdubroof, PDUBROOF, at assistinghands.com. My direct phone number is 301-363-2587. And I am totally available to answer questions about Home Care 101, how to get the best possible care for your loved one or yourself, and how to engage in creatively engagement so that you can find joy and find ease and have a better life.
Wonderful. This has been great. Thank you, Patricia. As far as Knowledgeable Aging, you can go to our website, knowledgeableaging.com, see all of our upcoming and archive webinars. Go to YouTube. Encourage you to subscribe. We update that several times per month. If podcasts are your thing, you can find us on Apple Tunes, Spotify, etc. Till next time, I'm your host, Jason Kotar. This is Knowledgeable Aging.